some management techniques which we do, but most of it you are the important players in managing the problem. Before going to the management, I thought that we'll just discuss what is sparsity from the physiological point of view, and what are the things which undermine the sparsity, right? And as we all know, most important thing is that what is sparsity is that it is increase in tone, and the type of increase in tone, it is velocity dependent, and this is what differentiates it from rigidity. Now the main thing is what is velocity dependent. That is, if you do the movement at a increased velocity, in fact there may be initial catch and after that it gives away. Whereas if it is in a rigidity, it is same throughout. And as we all know, what we keep on reading is the clasp knife. Clasp knife is that what we that one, that the Swiss knife, or in the local parlance it's the Rampuri Chaku. Now apart from that, what is the other important thing is that sparsity is a sine qua non of open motor neuron disease. Second, and clinically what we see, it is usually accompanied by exaggerated reflexes. These are the 3 points to remember regarding sparsity. It's velocity dependent increase in tone, it's a sine qua non of UMN disorder, and we will have increased reflexes. Now how do we assess it clinically? Clinically, first of all, as soon as you know it better, the Ashworth scale, what we do a passive mobilization and try to see the range of movements first. And clinically, by tapping with a hammer, there will be exaggerated reflexes. Now just a few initial talk about the tone. What is tone? As you all know, it's the state of partial contraction of the muscle that is due to the gamma fusiomotor drive, which helps in keeping the muscle contracted. And what is the need? So that we maintain a proper posture. Therefore the main function of a tone is to maintain the proper posture, and when there is a problem with these, we will have various issues, either a hypo or a hypertonia. Motor unit, as you all know, I won't discuss regarding this, but this is the spinal stretch reflex. As we all know, the muscle tone is maintained by, and what is the basic thing is that it is a monosynaptic reflex, and the end fiber organs are the spindle, and from the spindle the 1A efferent carries the information to the cord, and from that the efferent fibers go to the muscle, right? Whenever there is a change in posture, for example, as I am tilting to one side, there will be increased activity in the gamma fusiomotor neurons. They pass the information to the cord. From there, the muscle gets the information that, oh, we have to change it, and there is a contraction in the agonist muscle and relaxation in the antagonist muscle. Now not only this, there is also a very important supraspinal segment, and the problem with the supraspinal segment is the cause of the sparsity. As we all know, the vestibulospinal are the predominant facilitatory part. The vestibulospinal tract are the predominant facilitatory part of the cord, whereas the reticulospinal is the inhibitory tract, and the problem at this level is known to cause the spasticity. Apart from that, these are the other, usually the most important thing in a spasticity determination is the GABA. Inadequate GABA leads to increased spasticity. Right? Now, why does the spasticity occur? As we all know, the predominant supply to the element, that the motor unit, motor neuron, is always inhibitory. Therefore, as we all know, when there is loss of inhibition, spasticity occurs. But why does it occur? What they believe is that, first of all, there is uninhibited increase in the gamma fusiomotor drive. Second, the alpha motor neuron, they become hypersensitive. The check mechanism, as it goes, it becomes hypersensitive, and it starts to generate more and more signals. Apart from that, it's thought that collateral sprouting occurs, which increases the amount of signal to the cord. And apart from that, there are changes, many changes occurring at the spinal cord level, which are proposed to increase the tone. Now this is a in short, what are the problems occurring? if any problem occurs at the highest center, this loss of the inhibition, immediate consequences, as we know, there will be paralysis. But and if that's where we all come into picture. If we allow the position to stay in that, what we have is the contracture. Contracture. The problem is that you can't do anything if you have the contracture. But whereas if there is a delayed consequence is that you will have a spasticity, and if the spasticity is not managed efficiently, that also may lead to a contracture. Right? Now, what are the other phenomena associated with spasticity? Is it alone? No. The problem is that what one more why we diagnose there is associated the cutaneous reflex, that's the Babin cyst, that also indicates that it's a human, but that's not that's from a clinical point of view. From a patient's point of view, what will have, there will be co-contraction, loss of inhibition goes, therefore the agonist and the antagonist both contract at the same time, leading to muscle contracture and also leading to dystonic postures. These are the major problems which cause abnormal posture and severe pain in a particular state, which inhibit the patient to lead a active useful life. And last but not the least, there is also a point known as an extrasegmental contraction. That is the muscle which are far away from the joint which is mobilized, that also undergoes contraction. That also contributes to the problem. These are the disabling phenomena: motor shortening, muscle shortening, motor weakness, but it's not so much as it is in the element, joint contractures, spastic dystonia and spastic core contracture. These are the things which are usually accompany spasticity, and we need to avoid them. And the muscles involved, this is the better view. As we see at the shoulder, it is the hand gets adducted and internally rotated, and it's flexed at the elbow, but the predominant muscle is the brachioradialis, flexed at the wrist, and you have a clenched fist. The problem with this fist is that even though there is a power, it is useless. You can't the hand cannot be used for any particular function, isn't it? Therefore, our aim should be to prevent this as all possible. Now, the problem with the upper thing is that the dexterity goes, he can't use the hand for feeding or anything. But with the lower limb, the bigger problem is that he can't walk. If both the limbs are involved, the thighs are adducted, the legs are crossed, and he will be just be immobilized. Along with that, there will be problem with his urination. Along with that, there will be ichnovarus deformity. With that, he can't walk at all. These are the things which we see. Striatal toe is though it's commonly seen in women, but it's also a feature of many extrapyramidal disorders. And the adducted thigh, what I was telling, that if it's bilaterally adducted, as we see in cesarean in children, it becomes very difficult to manage them. Now, what does the other problems what we see with the spasticity? Rather, the most important is that the dreaded complication is always DVT, deep vascular thrombosis. But due to the inadequate mobilization, osteoporosis is a common problem associated with that, and bladder bowel problems, contractures, therefore disuse atrophy leading to further weakness. Therefore, at last, what does it affect? It will destroy the personal life of the patient. He can't have a social outing. He will have a problem with his bladder. He will have a problem with the sleeping pattern, usually due to severe pains. But is all spasticity problematic? No. Especially some amount of spasticity may help in the patient. How? It can help him to stand. It can help him to maintain the position even if there is a significant weakness. Therefore, we have to be very sure what is the problem part and try to treat the problem part only. Now, as we all know, the commonest cause is the stroke, but not along with that, even the motor neuron disease, cervical myelopathy, compressive or a non-compressive, spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, and neurodegenerative disease of any sort can lead to spasticity.